Britain's economy may be suffering, but the situation is evidently worse for our European neighbours. Follow this channel, Eco Channel TV, for more updates on international news. Julian Jessop. Only fantasy economics could suggest we'd be richer in the EU. Britain's economy may be suffering, but the situation is evidently worse for our European neighbours as the economic impact of Brexit are becoming increasingly silly. The Liberal Democrats have pulled off another stunt by claiming that new analysis shows that the vote to leave the EU is costing the UK up to $90 billion in lost tax revenue a year. In fact, this is simply a different way of presenting the results of a working paper published earlier this month by the U.S. National Bureau of Economic Research, NBER. This claimed that Brexit has reduced UK GDP by as much as 8% since 2016. The NBER paper was a serious piece of work by serious economists. It would also be odd to insist that Brexit has had no negative effects at all. But it is entirely reasonable to challenge both the magnitude and the duration of these effects, especially when the results are so extreme. At first sniff, the 8% figure fails a simple smell test. The UK economy has grown by about 12% since 2016, outpacing Japan, Germany, Italy, and France. If you add another 8%, the UK would have been the fastest-growing economy in the G7, bar only the US, and left its EU peers far behind. This would not be impossible, but it is surely unlikely. To get their 8% figure, the authors of the NBER paper have compared the UK's per capita GDP growth since 2016 to a wide range of other countries, and assumed that any underperformance can only have been due to Brexit. Alarm bells should already be ringing. Digging deeper, the paper uses two approaches. One is to compare the performance of the UK to an average of a large group of other economies with whom it may have little in common. The other approach is to leave the judgment entirely to a computer program. In this case, a synthetic control model uses an algorithm to find the weighted group of countries, or doppelganger, whose performance was closest to that of the UK before Brexit. The NBER doppelganger is a particularly odd bunch. The model gives the biggest weight to the US, 61.4%, but this was followed by Estonia, 10.9%, and Greece, 9.5%. Even Hungary got a look in, 0.7%, but there was no room for France or Germany. More fundamentally, the best fit in one period and in one set of circumstances may not be the best in another, especially where there have been many shocks, not just Brexit, which could be expected to hit the UK differently from other countries, notably COVID and the energy crisis. You would also surely want to exclude the US from any comparison. The US economy has recently benefited from low energy prices, a large fiscal stimulus, and the AI boom. It makes more sense to focus on countries that might have been expected to be closer matches for the UK over the period of interest. In per capita GDP terms, the UK has marginally underperformed France since 2016 and marginally outperformed Germany, which are more obvious benchmarks. There is no sign of an 8% hit here. Note also that Canada is the G7 laggard on per capita GDP, not the UK. That may have something to do with Canada's high level of net immigration, a feature shared with the UK. That issue is surely worth discussing further, but the NBER paper barely mentions migration at all. The NBER paper also claims that UK employment would be as much as 4% higher without Brexit. Again, this is not impossible, but as the unemployment rate has averaged little more than 4% since 2016, this would have required an implausibly large fall in economic inactivity to fill those jobs. The NBER paper is on stronger ground when talking about the costs of the disruption and uncertainty caused by Brexit, ESB.